Hey, everybody, this is David Green is Obsessed. I'm David Green. This is the show where we talk about all our obsessions, try and work them out and figure out what we can learn from them. And I want to start today by telling you a little bit about my mom. When she passed away in 2006, I had to pay off her debts because I was handling everything. And paying off debts meant doing a lot of things. One of those things was taking a trip to a very sketchy guy's house. It was a few miles from where my mom lived. It was her sports bookie. I owed a few $1,000s because my mom was in debt to her sports bookie. And the last thing I wanted was to have some guy chasing me down just as I was in the healing process. But I'm going to be totally honest with you. I think paying off that debt itself was kind of healing. It brought back so many memories of me and my mom and gambling. My parents were divorced, had a great relationship with my father, but it was mostly me and my mother when I was growing up. And we would gamble a good bit. I mean, it wasn't like astronomical losses, but we'd love going to the racetrack together. We'd love going with our neighbor to an off-track wagering facility in a strip mall in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I also spent most of my summers growing up in Atlantic City, where my mom grew up. We would visit my grandmother, and the three of us would go up to the boardwalk. My nana would play the slots, my mom would play blackjack, but mostly craps. That was her game. And when I was too young, I would wander the boardwalk, play in the arcades, and be outside on the beach and then meet my mom and Nana at a prearranged time. And sometimes I would meet up with them. My mom would have this smile on her face. She was holding a stack of $100 bills. She'd be celebrating, and we would go out for lobster or go out for Italian food. Sometimes, though, she looked pretty miserable. And those are the times when I was a little afraid because she would tell me to go home with my nana back to my nana's condo. And my mom said that she was going to stay up on the boardwalk by herself. And very often I'd be asleep in Nana's apartment and I would hear my mom tiptoeing in, shutting the door gently at 2, 3 in the morning, not saying anything. And I just knew. I knew that it wasn't good. I knew that she had lost a good bit of money. And that was hard because we weren't exactly rich when I was growing up. My mom was a college professor. We lived for a time in Kentucky, and she was in such credit card debt that she had to go bankrupt, which, a lot of people do. But I remember that it was humiliating and confusing. And, we go to the grocery store, the Piggly Wiggly, to get groceries, and she would cash a check with the cashier and tell me that she knew there wasn't money in her checking account to cover it, but she'd take some of the cash from the cash check, get groceries, and then stick the rest in her bank account to cover that check. Somehow she just made it work. But then we'd go to Atlantic City and she would gamble, and I was just confused. Like, when is it too much given whatever your finances are and whatever your reality is? And so I still gamble today. I gamble on sports. I love going to the casino, but I always think about my mom in a really positive way. I can't sit at a craps table without thinking about her, but also I think about the importance of, being disciplined because I remember so vividly the fear when I thought that she was going too far. So, this is what I want to talk about today: gambling. When is it an obsession? When is it an addiction? And what role does it play in our lives? And I'm going to bring in someone who knows about this very well. She's a journalist and author in New York City. Her name is Beth Raymer. She's written about gambling and she's been a gambler herself. And we're going to talk to her in just a minute. All right, we're back with more David Green is Obsessed. Thank you all for joining us. I really appreciate it. I'm David Green. I am maybe obsessed with gambling, among other things. And my guest today is author and journalist Beth Raymer, who's the author of a book called Lay the Favorite, a memoir of gambling. It also became a movie about her life with a hell of a cast. Vince Vaughn, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Bruce Willis. I believe you, Beth, were played by Rebecca Hall. Is that right?
Yes, right.
Well, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
How often do you watch that movie? I mean, do you watch a movie about your life over and over again? Or do you like put it to
No,
the side and never
I put
think
it to
about it?
the side.
Did it reflect your life, do you feel like?
My life? Not really. Maybe a small time in my life. The cast of characters, very much a snapshot, I guess. Um, Lay the Favorite, the memoir I wrote, it only takes place in like a 4-year period. That's where the action happens.
Yeah.
When I started working for a professional gambler in Vegas. That's the beginning, and by the end, I was working for an offshore betting agency in Central America. So it's just that journey that only went on for 4 years of my life. But like you, I had a childhood full of the ups and downs of gambling, a parent who gambled. So there's a lot of flashbacks, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, tell me about childhood, tell me about the parent who gambled, and tell me some of the memories there.
Oh gosh, it's kind of, I mean, just listening to you talk, I had a very similar childhood. My dad was the gambler. Blackjack was probably his biggest game, but really he would bet on anything. But being at the blackjack table with my father, still, I mean, just the feelings just come back because when I was growing up, my dad would take me gambling. Like I always just went with him. And we would go, we lived in Florida, so we would take junkets to the Bahamas. And in the late 80s or even early 80s, kids were allowed in the casinos. It's not
Oh,
like
I'm
how it
so
is now.
jealous. I wanted to be in there so much. Like it was
So
this magical world that
I
yeah,
would
oh, that's
just go
awesome.
sit with my dad at the table. The dealers would deal me in as almost like it's the equivalent of like when you go to the bar. When I would go to the bar with my dad, the bartender would give me a Shirley Temple. It was like just so I could be part of the environment. Well, this
Yeah.
was the same thing. They would deal me in the game, and I knew how to play blackjack. I played blackjack a lot with my dad.
What age were you
Um,
now? Are we talking like 9, 10,
Well, my sister
teenager?
would go and buy weed. She must have been a teenager. So I was probably like 10.
Okay.
Um,
Blackjack player 10. I love that.
but it was very emotional. My dad, just the way that he would choose a dealer, we would have to look for a dealer. My dad did not like dealers who talked. He liked the very like silent dealers.
Interesting. I like the
Yes.
talkers. I like the conversation at the
Oh, my dad would, if we got a talk, if like there was an exchange and the one dealer left and a new chatty dealer came in, my dad would like stop the game, stand up. My dad had a real big physical presence, very tall, good looking, charismatic. And like, I remember just being like, oh God, my dad would just like say, cash me out. And we would go find another silent dealer.
Mhm.
So being at the table, it wasn't such a joyful thing. It was an intense thing where my dad was throwing down thousands of dollars. And I am just sitting there like riding the wave with him. Um, and it was just intense. I remember the big losses. I remember the big wins. But of course, it's all very poker face, and there's not the celebration until you step outside when you leave
Right.
the table. And like my dad would sit there for hours and hours and hours and hours, and I would sit there with him.
And
I
were
mean, it
you
was
were you enjoying it the whole
intense.
time, or do you remember like being afraid, being like, should I tell him to leave? I mean, what was there conflict?
I would not dream of telling my dad to leave the blackjack table. I was just like, dream blackjack companion. When my dad won, oh dad, when he lost, oh it's okay, next one we're gonna win. I was just like this champion mascot to my gambling addicted father.
Mhm. So as your life goes on, and leading up to when you ended up, heading to Vegas, you were working for some time in Florida as a private dancer, right?
Yeah.
Tell me the
Private
journey
dancer.
into is that the right word? You tell me if I'm
It's so funny. I don't really know what it's called, but at the time, this was in Tallahassee, and I was a social work student. And when you go to college, you hit this part, and it's your senior year, your last year of college, where you have to do an unpaid internship full time, and that was going to be very hard for me because I was already waitressing, putting myself through college. And I was like, how in the hell am I going to take on a 40 hour? And I had to work with the Department of Children and Families. So it's a State Department internship. And I was like, I have to be there truly from 9 to 5. The only way I thought that I could kind of keep my academic career going and graduate was I needed a job that started at night that I made a lot of money because I was going to have to
Mhm.
quit my waitressing job because the shift started at 4. And so I started stripping, and it was a very good decision. I made a lot of money. I was able to pay for I remember just paying for my last semester, or maybe I was even in debt. I was paying with cash. And I just went there, and like life became very easy because I had money. And so all the things that I was like struggling with before, they totally went away. And yeah, and that was because of stripping. The only other person I've ever heard talk about like how positive stripping can be is Cardi B. Like she talks a lot about how it's a very good business decision if you have the right mindset and you get in and you get out. You don't linger in the stripping world. You just kind of do
Mhm.
what you have to do and go. And that's what I did. And
So
it
you and
was
Carly
very
B are
helpful.
aligned there. I mean, you
Oh,
no
yeah.
regrets, and you think it was a really good business decision.
It was a very good business decision. I do look back. There were a few moments like, and I don't even really remember this part like so fully, but like there was a guy who pulled a gun. Like I was in incredibly stressful situations, but somehow I was like, it didn't phase me so much. I was like, oh, these people, he has a gun, he's been doing coke. I'm not high. I'm going to get out of this. And then I would just go on
Jesus.
with I
It's just the
know. I was
2 of you in a room. You're with a guy, and you're at
Yes,
gunpoint.
and that's what would happen, if you're like, some is this the direction we want this to go in this interview? But,
Yeah, no,
there
I'm
is a
curious.
lot of drug use. And so you're managing your client's drug use, or you're like I was young, 22 years old, and it's in Tallahassee. So my customers are just across the spectrum from college professors, people in politics, it's the capital, but then you have the guys who just kind of are retired and do a lot of drugs and they call you at 4 in the after, whatever, 7 in the evening. They don't even really know what time it is. And you're just hanging out with them. And then by the time it's 11, they're just really high. But you're just still hanging out with them. And then like all kinds of things can happen when someone's been on a bender. And so I did get into like those situations like a couple times.
And you're doing this and in those what sound to me like very scary situations, and by day you're going to school. Like
Yeah, I would go to
what were you
like the
studying?
social work. And so
Social work.
I had my social work internship. I was like working in McCullough County and child welfare work. I would have to go to like court, so it was very like very double life feeling, but the same concept. You're going into people's houses, you're in these awkward situations, having to tell people things they might not want to hear or trying to navigate things where you're uncomfortable. My job as a social work student was to make sure that men weren't in the houses. Like a lot of the families had restraining orders or for whatever reason. So I'd have to do surprise visits, and look to see if the guys were around. That was like
This
part of
split screen is stunning to me. The idea of you're like both day and night spending time like in people's homes trying to sort of navigate a difficult environment, but in two completely different roles. And that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Thank
So
you.
how does Vegas happen? Because I'm imagining, this young woman in college, who, is thinking about social work and kind of what career you want, stripping at night to support yourself, and then the decision to move to Vegas. Like what went through your mind, and how did you get there?
I mean, I was just by this point I had an actual social work job and I got fired from it.
Mm.
And I was only a social worker, like a real social worker, for probably 3 months. I was just too young to be a social worker, and I didn't have boundaries, and so I got fired, and I had a boyfriend whose parents had a restaurant in Las Vegas. And he was like, let's go to Vegas, work at my parents' restaurant, and then continue with our dreams. He was actually in film school at Florida State. And I was like, oh, that sounds great. And so then we went and we broke up right away. And so again, I was like, oh, I think I'm just going to stay in Las Vegas because I loved it so much. It was a lot of fun. It was unique. And very soon, when I decided to stay, I met someone who introduced me to the person who would become my first gambling boss.
And that's a guy
So,
named Dink, right?
yeah.
So tell me about him, and for people who don't understand the way Las Vegas works, like who is Dink and what role did he play in the gambling world?
Dink was a professional gambler, and but in Las Vegas, and he's a professional sports gambler. So this required like he had an operation, he had an office, a lot of staff, all the televisions, the hundreds of thousands of dollars on the desk that I, as a runner, would just like grab, throw in my backpack, go and make bets at the casinos. It was a very it was like a real operation. I did not know any of that. When I met this person who introduced me to Dink, I was clueless as to what to expect. But he was the one who showed me the ropes. He was someone who had been a bookmaker in Queens for years and had gotten arrested, and went to a halfway house. And he wasn't comfortable being a bookie again because if he got arrested again, it would be major prison time. So he kind of had to be a gambler, which is a much harder way to make a living compared to being a bookie. So he's the one who kind of taught me everything. And I ended up working for him for many years. And through him, I met a lot of other gambling bosses who were bookies in New York City, which was very interesting. I went offshore to the Caribbean. I helped open an offshore sports betting business there. That was wild. And then it finally ended up in Costa Rica, where finally I said I can't do it anymore.
What did you like about this world once, Dink brought you in and he was a professional gambler and making tons of money, and we should say, I guess, lay the favorite. I mean, the name of your book, that's what you learned from Dink. It was playing against the favorite and kind of playing the spreads on really wisely on games and so forth to know how to maximize your profits. But like, what did you like about it? It sounds like you were brought into this world so quickly and so immersively.
Yes, it was like the learning curve was just tremendous. I was the only woman most of the time. I was one of the youngest. Almost everyone I was working with was in their like 40s, 50s, 60s. I loved the freedom. I loved having very unconventional bosses. All of them were geniuses in one way or another, usually with math. Almost all of them had worked on Wall Street at some point and just did not want that, the square life. And I liked that. I had a very similar mindset. I didn't want to set an alarm and go to work and do all that. I wanted to be free and have fun and wear my tank top and Converse just to work every day. And when I wanted to go work out, I'd go work out and I'd come back to work. It was just so free and easy. But of course, it's not, because underneath of that, just like being at the blackjack table, there's so many emotions and so much darkness and people going broke and suicide, and gambling really truly does ruin families. But it's hard to see when you're so deep in it and when your boss is winning and when you're making money, and like those very dark things would pop up, I don't know, like once every like 5 months. And I remember always being so shocked that something had happened.
Like something
Because
negative. You were living this
yeah,
kind of
something
like,
negative.
fantasy life, and then all of a
Yes.
sudden it's like, wait a minute, it could all go away, or someone could be really hurt because of all this money on the line.
Well, yeah, or like Dink would get robbed, like a bit, and he would get robbed for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I would just be like, "What are you gonna do? What are we gonna do?" And it's like, are you really going to try to go after the guy or what's going to happen? And then the guy who like stole the money would call and he would be like, I lost it all. I'm going to kill myself. So just this world of just such high stakes, high emotion. The backdrop of it all was just a lot to take in about human nature.
But there is something about the backdrop, and I know that people who don't love Vegas have no idea what the hell I'm talking about when I tell them why I love it so much. But even, I mean, every trip I go on, even today, I love it. If I'm on a work trip to Vegas, or if I go with friends, or if I'm passing through for work or something on my own, I've gone to Vegas to just like spend a weekend betting on sports, watching my Pittsburgh Steelers at a Steelers bar in Vegas, and then just wandering the strip, or, like 1, 2 in the morning. There's something I still find intoxicating about it. It's like a lot of lost souls who have found this place where you can be accepted and not have to think about anything negative. I don't know. I just connected so much with your story and kind of your years in Vegas and those feelings. But what does that say about us?
I think it kind of says we're supposed to be in the arts.
Interesting. I like that. Say more.
So it's well, no, I think there is something there are a lot of lost souls in Vegas, and you kind of have to I don't know. It's the feeling I feel about being a writer. I mean, my writer friends are very lost souls, and they've had a lot of ups and downs in life, and they've kind of tried to find this way to get around the system and capitalism and stuff. And is it going to work for any of us? Who knows? It's a major gamble. Some days feel great. Some days feel so absolutely, what have I gotten myself into? And that's kind of the mood of Vegas. I love my favorite thing, just like you, wandering Las Vegas Boulevard, really downtown Las Vegas at like
Love
three in the
downtown too.
morning.
Yeah.
3 in the morning, and there used to be, I don't know if it's still there, but there was this bank that showed the temperature, and it would be like 111 degrees at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and going into the El Cortez and like putting money on 00 on the roulette table. Like this was just so like life was just at its peak amazingness when I would do this. And I do sometimes I get that feeling back right when I kind of I don't know, get a book deal, or when I send my final proposal to my editor to see if she'll buy the next book. And it's the same thing of like, is it going to land on 00? How much
Mhm.
money am I going to be offered? Will I be able to make enough to just get me through the writing of the book? It's the same kind of psychic math and emotions and hope that I felt at a table.
I think you're pointing to something that I feel, and I know you've written about too. That kind of our when parents model something for you and imprint some sort of behavior or way to approach life, it's like impossible to make that go away. And there's something about you either fight it or you embrace it. And I think I love embracing it as long as it's not dangerous, and letting myself love life in that way, and going to Vegas and walking the strip late at night. But I wanted to ask you about kind of how you've reflected on your dad, now that you're a writer and, write for places like the New York Times and write books. I know he passed away in the pandemic, right? I'm so
Yes.
sorry to.
It's okay. Thank you.
You wrote a piece in the New York Times about, and the way you framed it was that your father taught you the benefits of delusion, which seems to
Right.
capture a lot of what we're talking about. Why do those words, do you think, capture this relationship?
The relationship I had with my father.
Yeah.
Well, because he kind of walked this thin line of being this hard worker person in the world. Um, it's really hard to describe, but my father ended up homeless on the streets homeless. And a big reason why he got there was because of his gambling and just bad, bad financial habits, which I have completely inherited. um, which I try so hard and I do all these things to kind of not do them. But yeah, they're definitely a part of me. They're inside of me. It's how internal, external. This is totally what my father passed down to me. But my dad got so far in life with the having fun attitude. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but I think it was
Yeah.
just really hard for me to when the house was finally lost, we lost it in the foreclosure and just, I was so kind of it took me a while to like really understand what was happening, which is ignorant of me, but he just like wanted to live on the street. This was very difficult for me because I kept on being like, Dad, I'm going to get you an apartment. I'm going to put down first, last, and security. I did this so many times because in my mind, it's like, oh, Dad's just maybe this is what happens to older people when they take a lot of risks. I'm glad my dad didn't have some conventional life, that he modeled to me. I want to show him how much I appreciate this spirit that he passed down to me. I'll keep getting him these apartments. And I would spend so much money and he would just like leave the apartment and just go onto the streets and he
By
basically had,
choice. I mean, he had lost his
yes,
house,
it
you were
was such
trying to
a
support him,
choice.
and
It was
he
almost like his obsession with freedom and his maverick ways, like just overcame his entire brain. Like he couldn't even stand to be like enclosed in a house.
sounds a little
So
like you loving Vegas. I mean,
I
the kind of the
know it's so
freedom, the
scary.
unconventional.
And this is what scares me. And kind of like when you were talking about how it's kind of scary when you have, that when you've been exposed to this, because it's like, all I can think is I'm capable of that.
Mhm.
If it happened to my father, it can happen to me. It's like there's no that I have sold books, that I have a master's degree, like none of it matters.
Because we're always on the brink because of who we are and where we come from in some way.
Yeah. And the modeling, or like, I think you said, like, I'm always afraid I might take it too far.
Mhm.
Yeah, like I have those feelings too. And I'm, raising a child on my own. So it's like I have to in New York City as a writer. And so I have to really stay focused. I mean, your story about how um, how you felt toward your mom, and also just kind of like the son paying off her gambling debts. When you were telling that story, I was like, oh my God, that could like be my son talking about me in the future, like how it was just the two of you. Um, Not that I'm going to have gambling debts, I don't think, but like, what if I own a loan shark money? Who knows? But like, I have to like really rein it in because I'm so attracted and open to risk.
Beth, let me ask you, take me back to Costa Rica. Like what was the moment when you decided like I this sort of gambling profession is not the right path?
Oh my gosh. Well, there were like two. I mean, there were many times through Lay the Favorite where I'm like, this business is too crazy. I want to leave. And I would always get drawn back to it for all different kinds of reasons. But in Costa Rica, basically, the business went bust in Curacao, the island of Curacao. So we moved to Costa Rica to kind of like recover. And I just found it depressing. It was during rainy season. The sun would like set at 4 o'clock. There were some earthquakes. I think just environmentally, I was like, get me out of here. And I just remember like eating this empanada, like sitting in this parking lot. And I'm just like, what has happened? And I was getting older. I was like 28, which now seems like so young. But of course, all my friends by now have graduated law school. They're having babies. And I am just like in this parking lot, whatever. I think I wasn't even wearing shoes in the image I have in my memory. And so I was like, I'm leaving. And I left like the next day. and then I went on an interview. I'm like, I'm really gonna like try to be an upstanding person in society. I don't even care. I will work at Citibank, whatever. I went on an interview, and I think I put on my resume that I had worked in sports gambling. I didn't know any better. And the guy interviewing me was like, you work in sports gambling? I love to gamble. He's like,
You're like, I'm trying to get away from this, and like you're.
exactly. But this guy was such a square. And he's like, I swear, he's like wearing a New York Jets from head to toe, his whole outfit. And I'm just thinking, oh my God, if I put him in an office, I will kill it because I'm going to get a percentage of his losing, what he loses. So he's like, do you know anybody I can gamble with? And I'm like, yes. And
Oh
so
my
this
God.
started a whole new, like, kind of like my last part of being in gambling.
Did you take the
Um,
job that you were interviewing for?
he didn't offer me the job.
Oh,
I
he
just
just wanted to
became
use
his
you for your
bookie.
connect.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
you became his bookie, so you kept going a little bit
I
longer.
was like that. Yes, I became the person, like the middleman, and I made some money from him. Of course, he introduces me to all of his friends. I'm now putting them in offices. So this is how the world works. But again, rather quickly, because he actually didn't pay. He didn't pay me 1 week after losing a ton of money, and very soon after that, I quit again. And that's when I also got accepted to graduate school at Columbia.
And you went on to begin your writing career.
Yes. And that all happened around the same time. Like I remember being in my Vegas apartment and I was really trying to get this guy to give me money, and I was having people call him and threaten him and pretend that they were my boss, all this stuff. And I was in my Las Vegas apartment in Summerlin. This like the nicest apartment I've had in Las Vegas. And a 212 number popped up on my cell phone. And I was like, it's Dave Greenberg. That was his name. He's calling from a payphone. And I'm like, okay, this is my one chance to like tell him I need this money. And I answered it. And it was Mike Janeway at Columbia telling me that I had gotten accepted.
What an
And like,
amazing moment.
I know. And right when that happened, I hung up the phone and I was like, I do not care about Dave Greenberg. I do not care about the money. I will get it. I know I will. But I just completely kind of like my spirit just moved out of the gambling world like instantaneously.
What I know this is a bigger question that we could spend a lot of time on, but what advice do you have for people um in terms of how to find the balance?
Oh, I
People
thought you were gonna say how
who
to find a good bookie. I was like,
and also offline, I'm going to ask you if you have advice on a new bookie for me, but let's take that offline. I'm curious. Got some bets in mind. It's the beginning of football season soon. Um,
yeah,
but do you have a good bookie?
yeah.
Okay, good. Um, Send me the number. But like honestly, what advice do you have for people who are, not rock bottom and having to call for, but like sort of trying to manage this love in their life, and also have other responsibilities, a job, maybe kids, but also I love gambling.
I don't know. I don't think I have any advice. I mean, I don't know how to do it. I don't know how anyone does it. A lot of people aren't able to do it. A lot of people are able to do it balance it for a short amount of time in their life.
Yeah.
I mean, how many gamblers? I have been in this business for so long. I have met hundreds and hundreds of gamblers. How many of them own a house and have an intact family at the age of like 65? Like zero. I don't know one. And those are successful ones who are making money. So
So recognize the dangers. I guess that's one
mm,
important.
definitely recognize the dangers. That's a big one. I mean, are we talking actual like physical gambling? Of course, there's money management, but I've never been able to do that. I have no self control with anything like that. So I don't know. I'm
Well,
sorry, I don't have
it's
any answers
hard.
for anyone.
No, I think the answer is it's hard, and there's no magic solution. But I love that I I feel like we've really gotten a picture with each other in terms of a don't assume that anyone is not a gambler, and
Yeah.
B, it goes so much deeper. Like it's not just, oh, I love the thrill. There can be relationships involved. There can be memories of parents. There can be experiences. It goes a lot deeper than we might think.
Yes.
I would like to take a very quick break, and then Beth Raymer and I are going to come back, and I'm going to turn the tables a little bit and talk about what Beth Raymer is obsessed with. Not gambling. We're going to talk about some other stuff when we come right back. All right, we're back with more. David Green is obsessed. I am with New York-based writer and journalist Beth Raymer, and I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, Beth, in a kind of
Oh
fun
gosh.
way. This is the part of the show that I'm going to call Beth Raymer is obsessed. So let me ask you, what is an obsession in your life that you've never told anyone about, even the people closest to you, like your son and best friends?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. I tell everybody everything.
I'm kind of the same way.
um, Something that I'm obsessed with. I don't know. I honestly don't think I have many obsessions at all. The obsessions I have are like they're kind of like, I don't know, are they like existential obsessions? Maybe that's what they're called, but it's kind of like wonderment, understanding. I mean, this is what drives me as a writer. And so it's like I always have to have that element in my life, or I make sure to have that element in my life, or else it feels like life isn't worth living. So I think that's like just a big obsession.
Hmm.
Um,
How do you define wonderment?
Wonderment to me is like something really big and confusing that allows me to just like wonder about it for years and to like always like have some way of getting to an answer about like how something possibly happened, or how could this person possibly think this way, or something big where I get to like be the detective or like the forensic whatever to like find out exactly how this is occurring. And then once I do, usually I write something about it, and then I get to move on to my next big wonderment.
Oh, I love that. Well, I know your newest book is a novel. It's called Fireworks Every Night.
Right.
Does that fit into that sort of category of there was wonderment and you wanted to
Oh,
explore something
yeah.
and
I
discover?
mean, with that, I just wondered a lot about my childhood. And so there's a lot of, and I really wondered about the things I brought from my childhood into a marriage that I had. I wasn't married for very long at all, but I just wanted to like finally be able to set aside time to really understand like what happened, what was my influence, what was I bringing to the table as like this 29-year-old wife to this guy. So that's basically that whole thing that book allowed me to do,
I love
to
that.
find some answers about it.
I have not read your new novel yet, but I can't wait to grab it.
Oh,
What's an obsession in your life that will make all of us go, holy shit?
I really don't think I have anything like that. I mean, what's yours? I don't have anything like that.
Holy shit. Mine is probably Soul Cycle. It's really embarrassing. Um, like I like that. It's just it's so different from the identity I like to have of myself, which is, hardcore journalist who loves to travel the world and go to war zones. I'm a big time sports fan. I like drinking beer and watching football on weekends. And oh, by the way, I love this like bougie fitness program. I think but I love it. I love the music. I love the dark room. So that's probably one that I think would be in the holy shit category. I don't know. Does that make you go holy shit, or maybe just raise your
No,
eyebrows?
I mean
I
that
don't
just
know.
seems so funny. You're right. It is, I guess, a little out of character, but
Yeah.
no, I don't think. I don't think holy shit, I don't know. It would take a lot for me to be like, "Holy shit," about somebody. They would have to
Okay, that's good. High threshold.
reveal something like, earth-shattering.
Okay, last one. Some kind of obsession that, and beyond, gambling and the story we've kind of been talking about, an obsession in your life that kind of scares you a little bit.
Oh gosh. An obsession in my life that kind of scares me a little bit. I mean, I think it's just entwined though. I mean, I will do anything, to have writing time. I feel like an addict how I am with my how much time I get to write. Like if there's anything I can do like to get an extra 2 or 3 hours in of writing, like I will do it. I just I don't know. It's something like that. It's
Like
very like addict
cancel dinner
fiending
with
feeling.
friends, pull
Oh well,
yourself up in
yeah,
a
but
That's-
definitely that.
but even more radical.
More radical. Just anything to, yeah, have the time to write, which it's hard to come by.
Well, everyone out there, if you want to read Beth's writing, that she will do anything to get done. Her memoir is "Lay the Favorite," a memoir of gambling. Her newest novel is called "Fireworks Every Night." Beth Raymer is a New York-based journalist and writer. Beth, thank you for being so honest and being so game to talk
Oh,
about this. I
thank
really
you so
appreciate
much.
it.
This was fun. Thank you.